Elizabeth Warren, she seems to have made it her job.
Who, Pocahontas? Pocahontas, well, no, look, she is.
It's very offensive.
You tell me. Oh, really? Oh, I'm sorry about that. Pocahontas? So what you said?
My mom and dad were very much in love with each other, and they wanted to get married. And my father's parents said, absolutely not. You can't marry her because she's part Cherokee and she's part Delaware. And after fighting it as long as they could, my parents went off. They eloped. It was an issue in our family the whole time I grew up about these two families. It was an issue still raised at my mother's funeral. So what I know about my parents is I know that in that little town they grew up in, that my father's parents knew enough about my mother and her family
so you have no doubt.
To say I have no doubt.
Well, let's assume then that that's the fact, that you're 1/32nd.
No, that doesn't tell you. Don't do that.
Well, why shouldn't I do that? But that is the fact,
no,
is it not?
No, it is not.
Why not?
It's not about the number. There are lots of people who are not enrolled in tribes.
Forget the number. You have acknowledged that in that national law directory you listed yourself as a minority. If your family had an African-American, like you have that grandparent or great-great-grandparent was a Cherokee, would you call yourself a black and expect African-Americans to accept that?
You mean if
that
my
same,
father's, well, let me think about this.
If that same ancestor was black and not a Cherokee.
It's not that ancestor. It's if my father's parents had said, you can't marry her because she's black, and that had been part of our family growing up, that we had two different families.
You would be comfortable saying you're black?
It would be part of identification.
Is your opponent's character an issue in this race? 90 seconds.
Well, thank you, John. And before I answer that question, I want to thank you for holding this event and obviously WBZ for putting it forth. I want to thank Professor Warren for coming out. I want to thank the viewers and listeners for participating as well. As you know, I'm from Rentham, have been the senator for 2.5 years. That being said, aside from my marriage to Gail of 26 years and the birth of my kids, being your senator has been the greatest honor I've ever had. And I think character is important. As you know, I think what you're referring to is the fact that Professor Warren claimed that she was a Native American, a person of color. And as you can see, she's not. That being said, she checked the box, and she had an opportunity actually to make a decision throughout her career. When she applied to Penn and Harvard, she checked the box claiming she was a Native American. And you know, clearly she's not. That being said, I don't know, and neither do the viewers know, whether in fact she got ahead as a result of that checking of the box. But the only way that we'll be able to find that out is to have her release her personnel records, have Harvard release their personnel records to make sure that she did not have an advantage that others were entitled to. So when you are a United States Senator, you have to pass a test, and that's one of character and honesty and truthfulness. And I believe, and others believe, that she's failed that test.
Racism and bigotry, he's got as his strategic advisor a person who's a white supremacist, and he's now doubling down.
There's no evidence he's a white supremacist. I mean, he obviously, there's, you know, people who are white supremacists who support Donald Trump and who support, like, Breitbart or Steve Bannon, but...
Come on.
Well, I mean... Are
we really, I mean, Steve Bannon has certainly associated himself with white supremacists. Will you go that far?
I mean, I don't know that you can say, though, he's a white supremacist.
Well, he has associated himself with white supremacists. Is that close enough? I mean, this is a guy whose appointment is applauded by the KKK. I mean, what Donald Trump is doing is he's putting, so far, he has said that he's going to go forward on bigotry and that he's going to go forward on Wall Street insiders. And I think this is a real problem for the American people. I don't think this is where the American people want to go.
I come to the Senate floor today to ask my Republican colleagues a question. Do you have any idea what year it is? Did you fall down, hit your head, and think you woke up in the 1950s or the 1890s? Should we call for a doctor? Let's be really clear about something. The Republican scheme to defund Planned Parenthood is not some sort of surprised response to a highly edited video. Nope, it's just one more piece of a deliberate, methodical, orchestrated right-wing attack on women's rights.
I don't know what was acceptable in 1890 or what was shocking in 1950. The Archbishop of Chicago said, have we so muted the humanity of the unborn child that some consider it acceptable to speak freely of crushing a child's skull to preserve valuable body parts? Was that acceptable in 1890 or 1950? The commerce of body parts, the Archbishop says, of defenseless unborn children is callously discussed over lunch. A woman who spoke yesterday on the Senate floor talks about a sheer disdain for human dignity and a complete disregard for women and their babies. And there are pro-choice people who believe fervently in the right of a woman to choose, who are equally repulsed, disgusted by those videos, and more videos are coming out, and they will be worse.
They're really bad.
They will be worse. And for Elizabeth Warren to try to relate the right of a woman to choose with the horrors and the callousness and the grotesqueness of what was discussed over lunch is really unfortunate. You know, Elizabeth Warren talking about the 1950s and the 1890s, she can talk about it all she wants. There's a great quote. I don't know the source, but it goes something like, just because we are not shocked by what shocked our grandmothers does not mean we are more advanced than our grandmothers.
Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren, to come clean about her history. This whole controversy started a couple of weeks ago when it surfaced that Elizabeth Warren, who was challenging the Republican Scott Brown in Massachusetts for his U.S. Senate seat, has claimed in the past to be a Native American. While she was teaching at Harvard, while she was at another top university, she listed herself. She claimed she did it because she wanted to meet other people who were like her. This is all based on her claim that her great-great-great-grandma may have been Cherokee, something now genealogists have said they have zero evidence of. And we have heard increasing calls from the Cherokee community after new reports suggest that Warren may not have any Cherokee background at all, to have her apologize. Twyla Barnes is a Cherokee genealogist behind the blog Thoughts from Polly's Grandmother. She wrote an open letter to Warren asking for proof of her heritage. Twyla, thank you very much for being here. You know, she maintains that it's been in her family. She's known about it for a long time, and maybe there's no proof of it, but that she is indeed 132nd Cherokee. What say you?
No, she's not. I've looked at her documentation. I've looked at her family papers. There's nothing to indicate she's Cherokee. Her family is found nowhere among Cherokee records.
What about the great-great-great-grandma, Sarah Smith, O.C. Sarah Smith, who first we were told that in a marriage application, marriage license application, she was listed as Cherokee. Now that we're being told there's really no proof of any of that.
The application does not say Cherokee anywhere on it. It has his name and his mother's name as O.C. Smith. It doesn't even have Sarah on it. It just has O.C. Smith, and there's no Cherokee.
This woman, Senator Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts, is emerging as the face of liberal America. Some in the leftist media do not trust Hillary Clinton, believing she's too socially moderate and too hawkish in the war on terror. So, Senator Warren is receiving adoring coverage and is being encouraged to run for president on the Democratic ticket by the likes of the far-left website Move On. The senator is an interesting woman. She spent nearly 20 years teaching at the Harvard Law School and once claimed to be of Cherokee descent. That came back to bite her, as the Boston Herald reported she has no Native American heritage. Nevertheless, she easily defeated Scott Brown and is now ensconced in the Senate. Ms. Warren despises Wall Street and big banks, saying they have rigged the capitalistic system. At one time, she questioned why there were no mass indictments of bankers after the economic crash of 2008. In fact, she's not a big fan of capitalism in general.
There is nobody in this country who got rich on his own. Nobody. You built a factory out there, good for you, but I want to be clear. You moved your goods to market on the roads the rest of us paid for. Yep. You hired workers the rest of us paid to educate. Now look, you built a factory and it turned into something terrific or a great idea. God bless. Keep a big hunk of it. But part of the underlying social contract is you take a hunk of that and pay forward for the next kid. And Donald Trump aggressively disrespects more than half the human beings in this country. He thinks that because he has money, that he can call women fat pigs and bimbos. He thinks because he is a celebrity that he can rate women's bodies from 1 to 10. He thinks that because he has a mouthful of Tic Tacs that he can force himself on any woman within groping distance. Well, I got news for you, Donald Trump. Women have had it with guys like you. And nasty women have really had it with guys like you. Yeah. Get this, Donald. Nasty women are tough. Nasty women are smart. And nasty women vote.
There's a piece from the Bedford Minuteman that really tells the story of how sexual violence impacts Massachusetts. And this is what it said. They are mothers, daughters, sisters, fathers, sons, and brothers.
Mr. President.
They are.
Mr. President.
The Majority Leader.
The senators impugn the motives and conduct of our colleague from Alabama as warned by the chair. Senator Warren, quote, said Senator Sessions has used the awesome power of his office to chill the free exercise of the vote by black citizens. I call the senator to order under the provisions of Rule 19.
Mr. President.
The Senator from Massachusetts.
Mr. President, I am surprised that the words of Coretta Scott King are not suitable for debate in the United States Senate. I ask leave of the Senate to continue my remarks.
Is there objection?
Object.
I appeal the ruling.
Objection is heard. The senator will take her seat.
As is the case with every part of Trump's foreign policy, we're all trying to understand, what is the strategy?
Do you think this was more of a message to North Korea?
You know, if we can't figure out what it means, it's sort of hard to make that a message. One of the things we want to know is what was the impact on civilians. I think it's powerfully important. You know, you go back to General McChrystal talking about the importance of knowing who gets killed in these attacks, because that's the real question about our future safety. Who's going to be out there fighting us in the future?
Can I answer the questions for us before? Doesn't Donald Trump just want to kill the people who want to kill us?
Disappearing middle class. And make no mistake, for this 67-year-old grandmother of 3, it is personal.
This is the best way I know to fight for their future.
Are they going to be better off than your generation?
The odds are not in their favor. When I grew up in America, the chances that a kid would do better than her parents were better than 90%. Today, the chances that a kid is going to do better than her parents are less than a coin toss.